So the first section that we're talking about here is the section of concrete that we cut with this diamond brush tool. It's called the concrete prep tool. I can't quite remember how many blades, 15 or 16 or something like that. And when you look at it, and you'll see a few different angles in this video, you'll see that it certainly cleaned the surface. It put quite an even cut across the floor. I spent about 15 minutes doing this. You could certainly spend more and continue to cut through, making it a consistent all the way through, but you'd be there for quite a while. This is a 45 MPa industrial slab, and I think you'd be there a fair while. There isn't really any noticeable wear on here. I don't know if the process would have been faster using water, but as means of comparison, we're doing it all dry, and we'll do them side by side. So as a prep tool on 45 MPa concrete, I think it's going to be pretty slow going. So let's have a look at the next tool. So the next tool was using a diamond brush again. This is called the Concrete Prep Plus. You can see there's a lot more blades on it, and that was really noticeable in how much faster it was to cut to do a pass. The result is better than the diamond brush concrete prep tool. It was faster, it looks like it's better prepared, but overall I think it's still having a hard time on a 45 MPa industrial slab. So I look forward to seeing how the other tools travel. If you were stuck and you had no other choice but to use a tool, I think you probably could prep the floor with it. It would just take you a fair while. So let's have a look at the next one. So the next tool that I used was more like a conventional grinder. It was the Florex 380 Satellite Mark II. And if you look at the specs, you'll be able to tell what the weight is and all sorts of things if you want to compare that sort of thing with what you're used to. It was a 30 grit, 6 segment, soft bond tool. The actual cut, as you can see, is pretty good. It removed a fair bit of the top surface. It found it obviously easier. It's like it's becoming easier with this tool than the last tool. But I did also take longer on this section. I think I was around 16 minutes or 17 minutes here compared to under 10 minutes and then 15 minutes. So I just went at the natural sort of pace that it felt like it was cutting through and cleaning up well. As far as preparation for a roll coat in a sort of a non-impact environment, I think this tool can certainly do it. I'd probably just have to be a bit more thorough and make sure that my hollows are well prepared, and that may be hand grinding or may just be doing multiple passes. So a good means of comparison, understanding how they're going to behave, and I really look forward to seeing the shot blaster in the next section. So the last of the preparation, I guess, test that we're doing was shot blasting. And I haven't had a lot to do with shot blasting, but I knew I wanted to see it against the control so that I could get an understanding of what the differences were. And thank you to the Florex guys who turned up at very short notice and wanted to be a part of this. So they did this 10 square meter section. They did it in about 10 minutes or 11 minutes. And the overall result, I'm impressed with shot blasting. So there was a couple of things that I learned from it. The size of the shot makes quite a difference to the profile that you leave. And Roland made a point that he probably would have chosen a smaller shot size given the choice. But we didn't have choices, we didn't vary the choices anywhere else. It's really just side by side, understanding the sort of differences. What became really obvious with the shot blasting was it certainly doesn't flatten the floor. It profiles the floor no matter what the undulations are. And that was something that was quite contrasting with the grinder. The grinder was very rigid. So it prepped the tops very well and really didn't touch the valleys. So there's a big contrast between the two. Whereas the diamond brush tools, they were more even in the undulations. So they obviously coped with the undulations, but you know, the concrete prep tool had the lightest prep across all of the finishes. The Prep Plus was better again and faster, but still not as intense as the grind or the shot blast. One of the other noticeable differences here was the grinder, even after I vacuumed it, leaves quite a lot of dust. The shot blasting is unvacuumed and the contrast is significant. So we end up with a surface, and once if we run a magnetic broom over it, I mean here the only thing left on it is actually really the steel shot that's been outcast or residual. If we ran a magnetic broom over it, we'd have a surface ready for coating. And that's one of those advantages that you know, became really clear when I saw this done. One of the other advantages I saw was there was a fair bit of contamination in this area, black residual materials, and even though we've left a patch here, weren't quite as thorough, it's actually removed the majority in other areas. It ran over Dynabolts without, you know, complaining about it, which a grinder certainly would and has. So very interesting to gauge the differences between all three of them, and I'll do a final pan across all three of them so you can see the differences too. I welcome any questions on this one because this is really important. If we're going to make resin flooring mainstream, we have to understand what the right preparation is. And the right preparation is not always shot blasting or grinding or diamond brush. The right preparation is understanding which is the best tool based on the slab that we have, the specified flooring system, and the budget of the whole thing. So we need to take all of those things into account, and I really enjoyed doing this side-by-side test. Great way to shop. As always, take care and keep smiling.